going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Dead on Dave. Now, today is finally today. It's upon us, WrestleMania 32. And look, the reality is, with the modern day WrestleMania, there brings a lot of good, positive things, but also with it, many, many bad feelings, hesitation, possible resentment, constant armchair quarterback booking. Everybody seems to know what is best for the WWE, what is best for the industry. Everybody seems to have an opinion, and I do too. So what I wanted to do before WrestleMania tonight was simply share some of my reasons why you should actually be a little bit excited about WrestleMania, and of course, maybe a reason or two of why you should continue to be so damn skeptical. Let's get right into it, and let's not gild the lily any farther. One of the biggest reasons why I think WrestleMania is going to be way better than people are thinking it's going to be is because when you compare to last year's WrestleMania, I think that this is actually a really good comparison because last year's WrestleMania had a really bad build. Most people would agree with that. The card was not overly impressive. I mean, there were some good matches on there, a few that really stood out to you, but most of them were shrouded in mystery. Like you weren't sure what you were going to get. Even Sting and Triple H, you weren't sure what that was going to bring to the table. I think for most people, aside from the ending, for a lot of you out there, it exceeded expectations. I mean, in match quality and spectacle and so many other things. Now, some people are still going to be upset over the ending, and that's completely understandable. But, however, you can't use but and however, but I just did because I'm Dead on Dave, damn it. However, when you look at it, the entire show delivered way more than people thought it was going to. I was one of them. Going into last year, completely not excited about it. And then it turned out to be one of the better WrestleManias that I can remember in recent history. So that was really something to hang your hat on. And it's something that you should keep in mind for this year's WrestleMania, which I think, honestly, the build has been a little bit better this year than it was last year. Not much, because it was still kind of a weak build where they seemed to get lost along the way of just really telling a cohesive, simple story. They got a little bit too convoluted in some aspects, and I think it took away from the build. But I still think that the build was overall better this year than last year. I also think, and this is my second reason why you should be a little more excited about WrestleMania. The card is way better than you might want to actually think of. Now, there are some stinkers on this match, potentially, on this card. Potentially, there are matches here that are not exciting, and they've been shuffled around. I like that they keep messing with the order and trying to figure out the best possible way. Now the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal is actually getting moved to the main card. Kalisto and Ryback are, I guess, opening everything on the kickoff. You know, I think they're trying to do a really good job of ordering it, because I think order is going to be paramount this year, especially the ending, which we all have our opinions on what should be ending WrestleMania. I think that's going to be very important. Order is going to be huge. And the reality is this card is backloaded. Absolutely backloaded. And nobody's really giving it credit. The Intercontinental Championship ladder match, if it's half as good as it was last year, and by judging by some of the people who are in this match, I think it very well could be, you're going to be happy with that. There was no, and I'm sorry, I don't want to beat up on AJ Lee and Paige and the Bellas from last year, but that was not a proper representation. I think even they would agree with this. That was not a proper representation of women's wrestling at a WrestleMania. This year, we all get what we've been clamoring for. We're going to get Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky, and even that people don't seem to be bejazzed about. Me, I'm over the moon. This is potentially going to steal the show. It's one of those matches. AJ Styles, Chris Jericho, another one from a wrestling standpoint. This is going to deliver on all the things that you're worried about. I'm super, super excited about that. How about Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar, which I think has a better build and a better appeal than Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and that was for the World Wrestling Entertainment Championship belt last year. So I think that's going to be more exciting. Obviously, the big stink elephant in the room is whether or not Roman Reigns and Triple H is going to be a good match. From an emotional standpoint, I see it getting booed. I see it having issues. But from a wrestling standpoint, Roman Reigns is a very good athlete, and when he's in there with a great wrestler who knows how to control a ring, work a match, properly set up a match, they're pretty good matches overall. He's in there with one of the greatest of all time in that category, one of the best ring generals wrestling has ever seen in Triple H. He understands match psychology like few others in history. So I'm expecting that match to shock a lot of people in many different ways, possibly even ending and who's going to win. That might be a shocker as well. So I'm excited about that in some regards. Now, that's a caveat there. There's a little bit of a caveat, because if this match does end the show, I think it puts way more pressure on everybody than it needs to. So it's going to come down to order, and having the Hell in a Cell for control of the company as the final match is the easiest way to diffuse all of that pressure and just kind of be able to tell that cohesive story. Everything's building to that. That should be ending the show, and that's going to really matter more than maybe you even know. So once again, backloaded card, and I'm excited about some of those matches. I mean, that's just 5 or 6 matches I just rattled off. That's not bad. So I think a little bit more credit to where some of the matches are going to be wrestling-wise than maybe you would even think. That leads me to my next reason number 3. Now, I've been stating this for a very long time, that I thought that this weekend is one of the main reasons, the entire weekend is one of the main reasons why WrestleMania is going to be successful, why people are going to look back on this WrestleMania and be happy with it. This entire weekend has already been a success. NXT TakeOver Dallas, unless you are completely jaded and just blinded by anything good, it was a monumental success. The best pay-per-view they've put on to date, which is saying a lot because they always deliver. And because of that, it allows WrestleMania to kind of be what it should be, and that is a spectacle, an absolute spectacle. So having TakeOver Dallas be as good as it was, while some people can consider that to be a double-edged sword, I think that it's going to be a positive because it takes the pressure off. Yes, you can look at it and go, oh, well, now they really got to step up. Well, do they? That's the question, because we know what WrestleMania is really supposed to be, and that's an absolute gigantic spectacle, a grandiose, just trumped up version of what wrestling is. That's the glitz, the glamour, the pageantry. It's all part of WrestleMania. The Super Bowl is not just a football game. There is spectacle to the Super Bowl that makes it more. The commercials, the halftime show, who's singing the national anthem, the production value, all of these things is what makes the town that it's held in. It also roves around just like WrestleMania. All that leads into what makes a Super Bowl even better. Now, ultimately, does it kind of fall on the game to deliver? Sure, but there's been some really big blowout Super Bowls that have turned out to be pretty high in people's hearts as far as remembering the game because of the other things that go into making something great. WrestleMania has that ability almost every single year because of all the things that goes into it outside of just the wrestling matches. So that's another thing. Just the whole situation that this weekend has brought to it to allow it to be the spectacle that it really should be. The Hall of Fame was a great success. The Hall of Fame did a great job last night. I watched the entire thing this morning after I woke up, and I loved it. There was a few things that dragged, but overall, it just brought into a big feeling. There seems to be something, and this leads me to my next point. There seems to be something underlying here, and I talked about it in my other point when I said that everything was backloaded. The final match, the match that should be ending the show, is a landscape-altering match. Not all WrestleManias have a match that with this much importance, but this WrestleMania does. And some of the problem and some of the reason why people aren't talking about it is because of the lack of build at times, or the inconsistent build, I should say, at times, getting this Hell in a Cell match to feel the way it should. Now, that being said, one of the other reasons why it feels so blah, is because we got a 50-year-old and a 46-year-old, and what can they possibly do? And that leads into yet another reason. Spectacle, cameos, return, surprises, and more. This is why this match is going to succeed and why the entire event is going to succeed. We're going to see all kinds of people show up, interfere, debut, return, and get involved in this and other matches. But this match predominantly, I'm expecting an absolute circus. Mainly so they don't have to put all the pressure on The Undertaker and Shane to deliver a wrestling match, a fight. Even with what Shane's got planned, which I'm sure is going to be absolute bananas, there has to be more to it. And I think you're going to look at something like Sting and Triple H from last year. What added for some, me being one of them, was the spectacle, having the NWO, DX get involved. I think we're going to see something similar this year, but because the stakes are so high, and they've done a good job of highlighting change. And that's the one thing so many wrestling fans who think they know better than everybody else is always clamoring for. We want more, we want better change, which is the correct way. You should want better from this industry. You should want more. Absolutely. I just think some people take it a little too seriously sometimes. That being said, they've teased that. So every time somebody shows up and gets involved in this match, you're going to go, oh, this can affect the change, or, oh, this can affect the change. It's going to do stuff that it's going to emotionally and subconsciously just play with you, and it should be a lot of fun. So that's yet another reason why I think tonight's going to be an absolute success. My final reason is this. Actually, it's not just one reason. It's 100,000 reasons. 100,000 and more reasons. Legitimately, it looks like they've already sold over 100,000 tickets. That's what they're saying. I'm going to go off that. That's probably going to end up not being true somewhere down the line. They'll be like, oh, they only sold like 97,000 or something like that. But I got a feeling that they might have actually done it. They might have actually sold legitimately 100,000 tickets at Jerry World. This is one of the reasons why, and it goes into the spectacle, it goes into the production, it goes into the pageantry, the feeling. This is going to be the largest crowd to ever watch a wrestling match, I do believe, or it's going to be at least really close up there. That's going to feel special. The pops, even when things are bad, the silences are going to speak volumes. I mean, this is going to be an unbelievable feeling event. It's going to look magnificent because 100,000 people is a big friggin' deal. Any way you slice it, that's a big deal, and it's going to feel that way. So those are the reasons why I think this year's WrestleMania is going to be very successful and surprise the shit out of you, and why you should be a little more excited than maybe you are. Now, just because I am fair when I always do any of these type of videos, there are reasons, one major reason at least, to not be brought into the unbridled optimism world that I may be living in this morning. And that's because WWE's done such a bad job over the last couple of years of being consistent. They've given you no reason, especially the most jaded of us out there. They've given you, the most jaded, no reason to feel like they can deliver on this stage. And I understand completely those out there who are like, no, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be predictable. There's going to be the same old BS. Nothing's going to change. And you know what? The possibility exists that you're right. The possibility exists that this goes exactly like people have been assuming it's going to. Roman Reigns winning the title in a boot out, lackluster match. Retains just going out through the entire night. No really great moment. Hell in a Cell being a bust. We just see old men in there, and then Undertaker inevitably wins. That could be a letdown. But what makes you really think that with all of the eyes, ESPN being involved with it, all these things, why would anybody in their right mind, now that's a different question for another day, of course. Now, is he in his right mind, or are they in their right minds? But why would anybody in their right mind allow this event to fail? or send people home unhappy. This could be the most important WrestleMania of all time because of the amount of eyeballs. The network hinges on this. They're going to get more people. It would not surprise me if they have 2 million people signed up for WrestleMania. It would not surprise me at all. They were at like 1.3 before, and now they put so much emphasis on giving away WrestleMania, even though it always is free for the first month anyway, just like Netflix. So it's really no different than any other month. But they put such an emphasis on it. It would not surprise me if the subscriptions, at least the people watching on the network, is over 2 million, which would be a huge success because it would be virtually doubling the audience on the network in one night. So there is so much riding on this WrestleMania that I just have to believe, from a business standpoint, from a logical standpoint, that they are going to do whatever it takes to make this a success. So while I completely understand that sense of dread, of predictability, and utter bullshit that can come from WWE, I'm trying to quell that for some of you guys out there. Now we'll see what happens ultimately. And I can completely understand why some of the weaker matches on the card, especially early on, and some of the meh, who gives a shit moments that seem to be coming our way with some on this card, I can understand why that would give you pause, that would give you hesitation. But ask yourself this question. I'm going to leave you on this. Ask yourself this question. Be honest with yourselves. How much is your sense of dread, your dispassion for WWE based on the fact that you just hate the WWE? Not necessarily the product, but what it stands for, the people running it, any other reason other than the wrestling, which is, by the way, nowhere near as good in some eras that people want to give credit to, and nowhere near as bad as others want to fucking blame for it in this era. People get hateful on people, ideas, corporations, and maybe, just maybe, some of that is a dark cloud for you and giving you reason to add a little bit more anger, angst, irritation, dismissiveness, that's not a word, to this event. So just ask yourself that question. And I'm speaking to wrestling fans, because who else would be watching this video at this point? Ask yourself, is that part of the reason? And if it is, for one night, I ask you to let some of that go and try to truly enjoy this event, because I think there is enjoyment to be had. I think this could be a fun show, and I'm really looking forward to it just to see what happens. But trust me, if it sucks, and there is a possibility that it does, I will be here to hear all of your complaints, concerns, all of that, and believe me, I'll be the first one lighting a goddamn torch tonight, right after WrestleMania, right here on Dead on Dave Productions on YouTube, for the live copious review where we take your calls, your questions, and so much more. That's right, this was just one long fucking commercial. That's what this was. One long commercial for my review. I gotcha. I suckered ya. Now come subscribe to the channel, like this video, and come be there tonight for your copious review of WrestleMania. We'll see you a little bit later on. Enjoy the friggin' show, folks. Enjoy it. We'll see you next time. Like, subscribe, and share. And as always, if you don't have talent, have talented friends. Peace.